Hello, everybody. Kathy Gregory here, and this is my episode number 2 of Uncovering My Mentors. And sitting beside me, I'm just honored, John, that you took some time today to sit with me. And you can see our backgrounds here. John is an icon in this network marketing industry, and our family, when we said yes to the opportunity we're in, we wanted to find success. We wanted to follow the right cats, and that's why I'm interviewing the right cats here, starting with the CEO of the company that we're in. And John is our top distributor. And so, being in this industry as long as you have, John, I thought it would be just an amazing way to show people that one of our goals is to make this industry great for everyone. And I know you're a living example of it. And I read in one of your books, actually, John's got little passports made from his book Right or Almost Right, and these are like my network marketing passports here, and you can see little flags and tabs on them because I read them lots and just remind myself of the important steps here. So like as far as you, John, you have been in the industry now over 30 years, and my husband and I are 58. We've looked at a whole bunch of different companies in our married life and have never seen success until we met you guys and started following what you guys are doing. So can you just share with everyone just a little bit about your story and like why are you still here in the network marketing industry after 30 years?
Okay, well, thank you, Kathy, for that kind introduction. And my background, I grew up in a small town in Minnesota, about 2,000 people. About 3.5 hours outside of Minneapolis would have been the closest biggest city, although Fargo was an hour and a half away. But I came out of high school. I had a learning disability, still do, right? I mean, I still struggle with reading and spelling. But in high school, I tried to be invisible. I mean, because I didn't want to get called on, and of course I would get called on and stumble and stammer through trying to read and get teased and taunted, and so school was humiliating for me. And as a result, I just tried to be invisible. I was a shy, introverted, low self-esteem and low self-confidence. Okay, I mean, literally wouldn't say hi to someone unless they said hi to me first. And so right out of high school, I went to work in a factory, a potato chip factory. Started out as a machine operator, and then I advanced into maintenance. I loved working with my hands and stuff and building things. And so the idea of sales or anything to do with talking to people would not have been something I would have thought about or considered in my wildest imagination. And so a friend of mine invited me to his house 32 years ago to look at a water filter. And I thought they wanted me to build a display. Okay. I mean, if it had been, come look at this opportunity to sell water filters, I would have said no, right? But it was to look at a display or to build a display or to look at the quality of the products. But, and so number one, okay, the number one reason I think I'm successful in this industry is, I talk about people by people, right? Passion, posture, belief, enthusiasm about what it is you're doing. And so I, number one, have a unbelievable belief in this industry of network marketing, the life-changing power of this industry of network marketing, right? Through my own experiences. And I think when you first start out, obviously you're not successful, right? You're just entering, you have nothing, right? But potential. And so one of the very big keys to my success is I became a student of the industry. I became a student of the company. I stayed plugged in. I mean, literally have been I get a kick out of it. I remember even when I started way back when, and my first ever experience in this industry. And, I was driving in December in the middle of the winter in Minnesota, an hour and a half to go. I had an office in Fargo that I opened, and I was living in this little town of Minnesota. 75-mile drive every day I would do through the winter, and would be there absolutely for the meeting. And I remember working with this guy who said how he was going to knock this out of the park and he was going to do it, blah, blah, blah. And he couldn't make it across town because the weather was too bad. And I drove 75 miles. Okay. So I think one of the keys is how bad do you want it? What are you willing to do? It reminds me of the story of the concert pianist. Everybody says they want to do something, but what are you actually willing to do to get something? right? I mean, that story of the, after the concert, this guy, is just mesmerized by this, concert pianist and says, man, I would do anything, to play the piano like you do. And the guy challenged him, says, no, you wouldn't. No, seriously, I would. I would do whatever it takes. I would do anything. And he challenged him again. No, you wouldn't. And then he says, no, I really would. I would love to. And he says, would you play 10 hours a day till your fingers are bloody? Right? I mean, it puts it into perspective. A lot of people want something, but what are you willing to do? Are you going to let the first negative, throw you into the fetal position? And, oh my God, I knew it was too good to be true. And so that's the other reason why it's so important to be plugged in, because it's not a matter of if you're going to get knocked down, you're going to get knocked down, and you're going to get knocked down repeatedly. The question is, are you going to get back up? And where you gain that strength to get back up is you have to be plugged in. You have to be on the calls. You have to be on the Zooms. You have to attend the events. You have to invest in yourself, as Jim Rohn says, right? Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. I would not be here today had I not dove into personal development, right? Listening to the Jim Rohns and the Earl Nightingales and the, Napoleon Hill and the Tony Robbins. So, I mean, it's kind of a long answer, but I believe, I believe the personal development is an absolute must. Absolute must. Staying plugged into a company is an absolute must, because you have to have your belief. Not that you won't, have bad days, bad months, maybe even a bad year, but as long as you stay, because if other people have done it, you can do it. And the other thing I believe is most people, they don't have an opportunity in our traditional world. They can't take the risk and put their family at risk, or the investment, or the knowledge, or to start that small business, or to have that billion-dollar idea like a Mark Zuckerberg or something. I mean, that's not reasonable or obtainable for 99% of the people. But network marketing is. It gives you, me, the everyday person, a real opportunity to have an extraordinary life. But it does take focus. It does take consistency. It does take a commitment to personal development. I don't think it can be done without it. And you have to stay plugged in, consistent, to maintain that level of belief in what's possible.
So John, actually, I from your referring to your book, love how you say net and then in WORK in big letters, network marketing. And whatever it is we choose to do in our life as a profession, yeah, you can't learn how to play the piano if you don't practice. You can't have big muscles if you don't go to the gym every day. And the same with network marketing, this industry, you have to do the work. So in your little thing behind you where it says failure, success, me, who is like an ordinary, like I'm trying to speak to the people who are like me, who have worked for 30 years in the industry, in whatever job you're doing. And I'm not saying that people don't love their job. Lots of people love their job, but they're not seeing all of the success that they want to. And I would say probably almost 100% of people have tried network marketing before. And they try it and they fail and they say it doesn't work. So can you speak to that to people? Because I know like there's a huge majority of people out there that I've talked to that tell me that it's like, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. And can you speak to that in your experience?
Well, yeah, several things pop through my head as you're talking about it. Number one, when you talk about people saying it's not going to work, I mean, I think back to my beginnings, and one of my friends who was the biggest naysayer in the world, and I just says, I just thank God that you weren't here, back when Thomas Edison created the light bulb, or we'd be all be in candlelight yet. I mean, you'd have probably discouraged him, right? I think another point is the more people that tell you something isn't going to work, the more likely you're onto something, right? I mean, it's going against the grain. Earl Nightingale in his book, The Strangest Secret, he talks about that. He says, look at what the great majority of the people will do in any given circumstance. And he says, do the exact opposite.
Right.
And he says, you'll probably never be wrong again, because the majority of people are failing in life. They're failing in business. They're failing in their relationships. And they're playing the most unrewarding game in the world, which is follow the follower, right? If you want something different, you have to do something different. You have to be different. You have to get out of your comfort zone. you know, as Zig Ziglar says, you know, life is like a grindstone, right? It's either going to grind you down or polish you up, right? It's in your approach. But you said an interesting word, try network marketing. And I remember back, this flashed into my head when you said that. I was at a big meeting, a big training, and this speaker said, okay, we talked about trying network marketing. Okay. He says, I want you all to stand up behind your chair. And he says, I want you to think about picking up your chair, but don't pick it up. Okay. And then he says, now I want you to try to pick up the chair, but don't actually pick it up. And then he says, I want you to pick up the chair. And he said, thinking about it and trying has the same result. It only works if you pick it up, right? There is no, I mean, you can't try. And that's one of the other things that's going to come back to my earlier comment, you know, of people buying people. I mean, I remember back even when I started in the industry, and I'm working with a brand new person, and we're sitting down with a prospect, and you know, the prospect asks the new person, what's your goal here? What are you looking to do with this? And the guy said, well, I'm between jobs. I thought I would give it a try. And the prospect says, why don't you try it on someone else? Right? I mean, people want to work with people that are committed. And you know, that old saying is, you're either buying or selling. You're either buying someone's story about why it isn't going to work, or you're selling your story about why it is. And whoever has the strongest level of belief and conviction about what it is that they're doing will have influence over the other person. And I can't state how important that is. I mean, when you know, and you know, and you demonstrate that, you know, that confidence will replace the fear, but your overwhelming belief in something will get the other person to think, wow, maybe I better, you know, I mean, it's such a huge deal.
Yeah. And I actually, when we started 5 years ago, and like, I was just going to go back for a second. Everything that John says, you can tell, John, that you have followed mentors as well, and that you wouldn't be where you are today if it wasn't for the Jim Rohns and the Zig Ziglars and all of the mentors. And I know you've said this millions of times, that you go to sleep listening to Jim still. And I do too now. Like, I listen to mentors while I walk, I listen to you, you have to plug in and listen every single day to the mentors that are going to help you. I like how you say this is a personal growth attached to a little paycheck on the end, or a big paycheck on the end. But this is a personal growth program, really.
Yeah, with a paycheck, you know, it's kind of interesting because you said, listen, last night I was listening to somebody I hadn't listened to in forever. And, you know, I was just having a difficult time getting to sleep. So I turned on this set of tapes by a guy by the name of Lou Tice. He's an old football coach. And it's titled Mastering the Attitude of Achievement by Lou Tice. And the whole audio is talking about behaviors and about beliefs, and that, you know, beliefs and truths. He said there can be conflicting truths, that people react not according to the truth, right, as it really is, but according to the truth as they believe it or perceive it to be. And there can be conflicting truths, but information can change someone's belief, or I mean, they can be absolutely convinced network marketing doesn't work because of what they've heard, right? Because of, you know, but then once they see and they understand, or they open their mind up to it, then they can change that. But anyway, it's a fascinating, and again, that's where I learned the various philosophies of success, is through listening to this information. You see the world differently, and it kind of plays into something I think I've always done, but I don't know if I articulated it necessarily or knew that I was doing it. It's, you know, my small step philosophy, right? Don't ever underestimate, you know, the impact of every decision that we make, regardless of how small or insignificant it may seem at the time. Thinking back to my first introduction, right? I mentioned I was invited to this home to look at this water filter. There was a breakdown at the factory that day. I had to work late. I'm working till 8 o'clock. The meeting was supposed to start at 7. You know, it's out in the country. This is December of 1988. And I just wanted to go home after a 10-hour day and, eat and watch some TV and, get ready to start it all over again tomorrow. But I made the commitment to go. And I remember walking in and seeing these two suits who drove in from Minneapolis, 3.5 hours to present. And they held the meeting up for me. There were 5 of us there that night. And, all 5 got excited, but the next day I was the only one left excited. Okay. But the reason I'm telling you a story is, what if you think of that little decision for me to go to that meeting and how it changed the course of my life,
yeah,
versus if I would have gone home and sunk into the couch.
Yeah.
Right. But then think of the compounding effect of that meeting. Not just change my life as a result of me taking a hold of this and introducing it to others, and the compounding effect of that, literally probably 100,000 people
Yes.
have somehow been touched by that little decision.
I know, that's so amazing. Yeah, it's such an amazing thing. And actually the water filters, like I was introduced to them probably the same time that you were, but I didn't listen to my intuition and my gut. Right. And so like that's one message that I have really strongly received in the last couple of years is like, listen, when you hear that noise, you need to listen and take action, even if it's scary. And I'm still learning that scary piece, because I know that you guys as mentors, I said to somebody yesterday, just pretend that our CEO is sitting right beside us and punching us in the arm if we don't do what we're supposed to do, and that'll make you do it. But like it takes bravery. And so like before we end this interview, John, I think there's a dog wanting out of my office. I'm just going to let him scratch. So if you hear scratching at a door, that's my dog.
Okay.
Um, but if you could give people some advice about this industry, um, that are maybe skeptical and they think that this might not be for them, what do they have to look for in a company? Like what's your advice for them to like look for in a company?
Well, I have this, criteria that I look for, because, many times we make just an emotional decision versus really seeing what makes up a company. And I believe all these companies are made up of, 5 critical elements, right? Company, product, compensation, timing, training, and support. And if 2 or 3 of those elements are not there, I mean, it doesn't matter how good we are, how hard we work, we're gonna struggle, right? I mean, look at me, I'm the same person I've always been. I'm doing the same thing I've always done, but I'm experiencing a level of success I've never experienced. And it's not because I'm great. Yes, I'm focused. Yes, I'm consistent. Yes, I work hard. I do it every day, but I've always done that, right? The difference in the level of success I'm experiencing now versus, yes, still having success, but not this level of success, is the vehicle, right? The difference maker is that vehicle, if you can find that right vehicle. And, the other thing about it is every company, you have to have patience, because every company, I don't care what the company is going to have ups and downs. The key is, how do they handle those, right? And that's one of the other things that I've been so impressed with, is the way that we've had our challenges and have continued to be able to, move forward and get over them and make the necessary adjustments to continue forward. So, finding that right vehicle, as I believe we have, right, is a crucial point. And then, focus and working hard.
Okay. And mindset is huge. Because I know I talk about this every day with people, that I love how you have that, the weed analogy is the weeds in your garden, and you have to continue, they're going to keep growing, and we can either let them overtake our garden, or we can take control of that garden and do what we need to do to keep our garden going and growing. So that's an amazing point in your book, John. And as a network marketing professional, and I am not professional yet, but I'm working in that direction, and following the right mentors, I highly recommend that you get John's book. What inspired you to write this book before we're done, John? And if you could give people 2 or 3 pieces of advice, who are looking at this industry, what you would give them?
Well, I think one piece of advice is get my book. Because getting my book is literally like what we're doing right now. It's like having a conversation. I mean, that's what I hear back all the time, right? It's almost like sitting down with me. And the inspiration behind the book was, I think, number one is to give back to the industry, to take all that I've learned, and to put it down, and maybe that can help, part of my legacy, which is to help other people learn and understand the power of what network marketing is, but how to do it right versus almost right. And part of the other inspiration is, traveling around the world and meeting people and asking, them asking me stuff. And we're talking about, sharp, hardworking, seemingly doing everything right network marketers, but yet not making the money they thought they would, or hoped they would, or believed they should. And, the question is, are they doing it right or almost right? And that's what the book does. It dissects everything we do and helps you make a little adjustment that can make the major difference in the success you experience, right? I mean, just something as simple as the way you tell your story. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, about 6 weeks ago, actually. And I mean, this person had $1 billion story talking about the results they had on the product. I mean, life changing, multi-million dollar story, but not making a penny, right? Hasn't brought anybody in. And I says, well, tell me your story. And he told me the story, and it was like a 45-minute story. And I said, that is $1 million story. You just need to learn to tell it in 3 minutes, right? I mean, and so I worked with him on how to tell his story. And so, I mean, when to do a 3-way phone call. There's a set of fundamentals, there's activities that we do, and I believe the book can help you refine and move towards doing it right versus almost right. I mean, same as anything, right? I don't care what it is. You're Tiger Woods, and you look at Tiger Woods versus another incredible golfer. I mean, you might not be able to visually see the little twist in the wrist, or whatever, the way they holds the club or whatever. It's the little things that make the major difference, and that's what it's all about, is helping you refine that.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and I want to edify you, John, because I know you're going to be on stage with Eric Worre in a couple of weeks, actually next weekend, which is amazing. Eric Worre is another amazing mentor in this industry who wants to make a difference for people. So congratulations
Thank you.
you're on that stage with him. And I know you're on many stages where you're helping this industry be great again. So I'm honored to be part of your team, and I'm honored that you are one of my mentors that I'm learning from. And I thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today. And for anybody listening to this interview, if you need to reach out to myself, or you would like to even meet John and learn more, I know John's open to receiving and helping as many people as he can. So thank you so much.
Thank you.